We're in Netanya, Israel, and today my guest is Gal Salomon from Clew. Gal, did I say your name correctly in the company name?
Correct. Clew Medical, by the way. This is
Clew Medical.
Okay.
And are you ready to give us some insights?
Sure.
What does Clew do, and what do you guys actually sell?
So Clew is building some sort of command and control, which is going to be deployed in multiple centers, which is gathering different kind of hospital into one facility, which help you basically to manage your patient in the acute care, what we're calling the ICU, intensive care units, which is based on many models which are coming from the world of artificial intelligence that can be, supervised learning, unsupervised, anomaly detection, which is basically gather a lot of information at real time and provide an insight where the patient is going, which means that who is going to be stable, who are going to be deteriorating, which kind of deterioration, what is the source, what is the trajectory, and more so, what do you need to do with the patient in order to save life, which is coming, very, very aggressively right now and giving, the COVID-19, which the heart of, those patients are relying within intensive care units because those patients need to be ventilated. They are basically connected to a ventilator. They are equipped with many kind of elements, which is helping us basically to save life. And more so is to deal, with those complex patients in a very different environment, which the different environment is predictive. Because if you're taking, the entire population that you have in the hospital today, they're treated as evidence-based medicine, which means that you need, as a doctor, you need to see an evidence in order to deal with the patients. The problem that we have in the ICU that most of the patients are in very critical condition. And when you have an evidence, it's too late. You missed the train already. So the uniqueness of Clew is the predictive model, which is coming to tell you this patient, which look normal, his heart rate is in the right, range, and blood pressure, pulse, cardiac output, everything which is within the normal. But I'm going to tell you that in a couple of hours you will see a major deterioration that you should start acting now. So you need to intervene as early as you can because it's a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. When you didn't act on time, you're going to lose the patient. That's it. This is pretty much what we're doing here.
So it's a very, if I understand correctly, it's a very sophisticated AI-based decision support system for the staff.
Correct. It's real-time system which is gather a lot of information in real time from the bedside, from the monitor, from the EMR, collect everything, which is built on a very super kind of modeling, which is superset of modeling around, different kind of deterioration, which allowed you to act upon, stuff that you don't really see currently. But storm is coming, and you should act as fast as you can.
It's one of those things you kind of think, how was it not invented earlier, right?
Like always, it's the right, timing, the fact that you started to see data and were basically based on the data.
So you're getting all the data from the different sensors of the ICU?
So we're basically collecting information from four different sources. The first one is the EMR, the electronic medical record, that you have all the historical kind of thing, demographics, ethnic group, those kind of things. The second source of data is the medication system, which is very, very large. And medication is not just taking a pill. It's really try to model every single of them and really try to understand, what the effectiveness of each medication. The third one is the labs. So you're asking question, are the patient have X or Z? The results are coming and we're collecting and analyzing those data. And the fourth, source of data is the data which is coming from the bedside, from the monitor, from the dialysis machine, from the pump, from the ventilators, Every single equipment which is connect to the patient is transmitting information in real time. It's a streaming data which is coming you and basically deliver some sort of a view where the patient is going right now.
And what is the business model of Clew? Is it the hardware system? Is it SaaS? Is it professional services, all or everything?
So we're not doing anything with hardware. We're completely software platform, which is SaaS-based, and the business model is basically per bed per year. So you're charging basically X amount of dollars on every bed that you have, every bed which is equipped and analyzed. This is pretty much, the stuff that we're getting.
And what is an average deal size for Clew? Is it in the millions of dollars? Is it the tens of thousands of dollars?
It depends on, in a large hospital like 1,000 bed and more, it's around millions of dollars, and we're not dealing with small ICUs. We're mainly, no, not mainly, we're focusing on the US market. In the US market, you don't currently seeing a standalone hospital anymore. Given, the health reform, you see a lot of merger and acquisitions, and you have a lot of networks that was developed over the last 6-7 years. So you can see networks which you have from 3 hospitals all the way to 120 hospitals. By the way, some of them are public companies, which, holding companies, which are, traded in the New York Stock Exchange, and their business, like any other business, they have a P&L, and they need to be profitable, and they need to make sure that the earning per share is going up. This is, completely different from every system that I know. It's completely private.
And so the business model is pure SaaS, or is it SaaS with professional services?
It's SaaS plus professional services, because every hospital want to do something different.
Right.
Want to see that the UI will look different, need to integrate with other stuff as well. But the basic, licensing is a SaaS licensing model.
And would you say the balance between professional services and the SaaS
80-20.
80-20?
80 is basically licensing, 20 is professional services. And as much as we can, we want to delay or to avoid doing any professional services. This is not it's not economic to our size,
Yeah.
and it's creating more revenue, but you need to invest a lot in order to get there.
And are you VC backed, or are you bootstrapped?
No, we're VC backed.
How much have you raised?
So we always, I'm starting, every company bootstrap, but then you need to scale, and the scale is basically only with VC. So far, we invested here till today $21 million, and we're right now started like 2 weeks ago another round, which is targeting another $20 million. So
wow.
Altogether, we will see in the next couple of months around 40 something million dollar, which with basically the total investment in the company.
And what's the team size, and where are they located?
So we are basically 32 guys here in this facility
In Israel.
In Israel. We have 2 guys in the States. One of them is chief medical officer. The other one is chief commercial officer. And given the fact that we just received our FDA approval,
congratulations, I read about that.
Under the UA, we're basically building the commercial team on the ground, because, up to the point that you have an FDA clear, you can't really sell anything. You can do POCs, you can do studies, but you can't really charge anything. So this is the time to starting to sell. Unfortunately, COVID came. From one hand, it's good because the demand for this kind of technology is rocket, but the fact that you can't really fly, and hospital and healthcare system in the States are not allowed to enter, any vendor is not allowed to go to the facility, given, the numbers which is climbing. This is a little bit of a challenge, but, it's going to recover, because you're dealing with healthcare. This is not consumer electronics. This is not another engine which will provide you some insight. This is, the basic stuff.
And so, given that, what is the current stage of the company? Have you started selling yet, or are you still in the piloting and POC stage?
So I think we've stopped, or I think we have done most of the studies that we have done, we've published. Right now we need to move to commercial deployment, or taking, the current POCs and convert those to be, paying customers.
Got it.
And plus increasing the pipeline. That's the whole idea of investing in the US.
What's the backstory of Clew? How did you get to start Clew? What drove you in that direction?
This is a story that I, recently I talked about the journey that we have took here, because it's not trivial to start all over again another company. As you know, it's not an easy ride. It's not, the guys believe that you're starting a startup, this is easy. A couple of years after that, you have an exit, everything is nice, and the guys which knows the industry know that you need to work so hard. And it's like, it's a roller coaster. I mean, one day you're basically on top of the peak, and the day after you're crashing the company and you don't have anything. This is, the journey. And my story was, I started companies before, and then I moved to the VC world, which I made investments. And then I decided that I want to start building something again. I don't know why. To some of the guys, it's not really logical decision, especially if you're talking to the families. It's not the right decision that you need to take, not in this stage of life. But another thing which was happened to me, I was part of the Pitango team, which is the largest VC in Israel. And my mother passed away. She passed away not because of any specific reason, because she was admitted in one of the hospitals in the north, but they didn't really put attention to her. And she died because they didn't act on time. They didn't know what she had, and she was admitted over there, and 3 days after that she died. And I remember I said to myself, there is no way in the world that we can't solve this kind of issues with technology. So it was a combination of, it's about time to do something right, not add another feature, another toy, another consumer electronic. This is pretty much what I've done most of their life. And the second one was story like that should not happen. And part of the second round that we have closed a year ago, one of the investors that came is the largest insurance company in Europe, which major part of their business is malpractice in healthcare. And you're coming and getting the data from them, and it's kind of shocking to see how many cases like that you didn't act on time, you thought that the patient have X and he was have Z. You're very busy, so you didn't put attention, you gave the wrong drugs, the wrong medication, and it's not one, and it's not two, and it's not 100. It's thousands of people, because the system is under heavy stress, and you don't have real technology that can assist you to take the right decision. Plus, you don't have the control over what you have gave. So you're not closing the loop in a way that coming and said, okay, I decided that this patient need to get medication X, but this X is not acting right because of his condition, because of many other things. So it's a combination that you need to bring technology, and this is pretty much what we are and many others are trying to bring to this industry.
You took a unique path, founder, then VC, and then back to being a founder. What are your experiences from that journey? Was it easy to take the plunge back being a founder? Do you miss being a VC?
It's dependent on which day of the week you're asking. But look, to be part of a VC, especially large like Pitango, is the fact that you're seeing so many startups, so many great ideas, and they have great teams with a great ideas. But then after a year, after 2 years, when you're seeing so many stuff, you're coming and say, okay, they're progressing, they're building what I'm building right now. It's basically nothing. I need to take the right decision on the right team, and no one have a crystal ball as far as if the company is going to be successful or not. And then you're coming and say to yourself, it's about time to build another company. It's always, good to know what the other side is thinking, because everyone believes that to be a VC is very, very easy job. You know, you're sitting in those kind of room, everyone is coming and pitch you, and then you need to have the luxury to choose who you want to work with. But the true of life that you're working, because you can't make mistakes. You need to make sure that you're doing the right decision, and it's not end up with making the investment. You need to be involved. You need to make sure that the company is working. You need to connect them to others. You need to, you know, shorten the time to revenue, and then you have another investment, and you need to work with your partnership. And then by the end of the day, if the VC is not successful, we as a companies are not going to be, we're not going to see any source of money. So we need to make sure that those VCs are very successful, because if we're taking a very close look about Israel, I mean, guys, the only thing that we have here in this country is high tech. I mean, we don't have any natural resources, or partially. And the high tech is basically the driving is responsible for major part of our GDP is basically based on high techs. And it's like an ecosystem that you need to work together. So it was definitely, you know, helping me to understand how the other thing is, how the other side is thinking, what are the obstacles that they're facing, and it's always coming to the point that we are depending on source of fund that will come to companies like us, because you can't, you know, we're burning cash like crazy, and you don't have any other mechanism. This is pretty much the mechanism that you have.
The first 1 or 2 pilots that you did with Clew, how did you get to those customers? Was it from your internal network, some warm intro from somebody, and how challenging was it to get them?
So, as always, when you're starting, and at least in my journey, every company was in a different kind of domain, so I'm not leveraging any existing relationship. And you're starting always with someone which knows someone, which connect you to another one, and you need to build your networks. And you always, when you started the company, you're coming with PowerPoint. You don't have anything else. But it's about, you know, how you're coming and said, guys, this is my vision. This is my dream. Help me to make this dream basically a reality. And it took us at least a year, if not more than that, to really building, you know, a scientific advisory board, which is building from the best physician in the US, the best one, from institutions which are associated with medical academic center like Harvard, like Chicago University, Stanford, those. And when you establish yourself, you know, clinically from the US side as well as from what we have here, you're starting basically to build your claim, and mix between, you know, workflow, which is the US workflow is different from our workflow, and building, you know, the story around that. And this is pretty much, you know, what we're always chasing about, you know, what is the market fit. And the first couple of pilot was not very, very easily, because when we started, we went, I mean, we started here in Tel Aviv Medical Center in Ichilov, which was a good starting point, but it's not good representation of what you have in the US. And then we went over the best hospital in the world, Mayo Clinic. You know, Mayo is a very big name. So we got an introduction, and it took us basically almost a year to close an agreement, because, you know, they're pitching from all over the world. Everyone is coming and saying, Mayo, we have the best idea. And we came to the Mayo team a few times, up to the point that we have convinced them that we have something in our hand. And the first true study, prospectively and retrospectively, was done in Rochester, Minnesota, which is, you know, it's slightly a very small hospital in a very small town, but they have pretty much the best team, the best equipment, the best practice, and not wonder that they're number one for many, many years. So it wasn't so easy, but I think we have learned a lot. We have gained a lot of traction, because it's not easy to work with, the Mayo Clinics of the world. I mean, they have a very high demand. They are not putting any risk on their patients. But I think we'll learn a lot.
How are you planning on, or how did you get the next batch, the real batch? Was it going into events, shows, again, more word of mouth, personal connections?
It's basically all the above. It's the right connection is to start, publishing what we have, because you need to remember that in our field, I mean, it's not enough to come and say, guys, we have models or we have algorithms which are very nicely, because you're dealing with medical doctors which are very, they have their own opinions. They're very, very smart. They understand, physiological better than any machines. Some of them, by the way, not in favor of working with machines. I mean, because you're coming to someone which is a medical director, which you have like 30 years of experience, and he's always come and said, "What's this stuff is coming?" I mean, he's going to tell me how to practice medicine. So it's a very, very complicated kind of things. So it started from publication, lecture, personal connection. And this is the time that we're starting right now to marketing. I mean, really marketing around that. And we started, by the way, when COVID came. Before COVID, no one heard about us. I mean, we were under the bush. I mean, we have done our own development here, but no one basically had put attention to, a small startup out of Israel facing the US market. I think COVID, and especially the work that we have done here with Sheba and with Ichilo, basically gained a lot of traction. And we're getting right now a huge amount of requests from China, from Singapore, from Korea, from Taiwan, from Japan, from the US, from Europe, from Brazil. I mean, because, as we said here in this company, COVID-19 was done great to us. It's not great to anyone else, because a lot of people was hurt, and the business and the economy. I mean, but from us as a company that no one heard before, it put us in the front of the page, in front of anyone that exists over there, because everyone is looking for a bed. Everyone is looking to understand who need to be intubated, who doesn't, which kind of complication, which kind of protocol you need to run. And this is the heart of what we're doing here in the last 5 years.
What's the sales tactic that you're going to use? Is it going to be classic field sales for these huge deals? Are you maybe inside sales? How are you planning your sales?
So I think in this context, I mean, it's going to be both. It's going to be direct sales, and it's going to go right now. You have started to see more and more funding coming to the point of be prepared for the next wave, the next winter. So it's going to, a government-based, funding, both here and in Europe. By the way, the US is working differently, but it's going to be, guys, we can help you to manage your COVID patient much, much better. And since we have results, and we're the only company around the world which basically got an FDA approval for those kind of patients, it's give us basically a leverage of what we can do. And this is the time to market that we're trying to gain here.
How are you planning to measure growth within Clew Medical? What type of KPI would signal for you growth? Would it be just top line revenue? Is it something else? Number of system deployed, number of patients saved? What's your?
It's going to be all the above. It's going to be basically number of units, number of hospital, number of patients. Accuracy obviously need to be improved over the time, and bear in mind that under FDA regulation, it's not allowed to us to go and develop, the models and keep progress, and every time that you have new version to install, every new version you need to assign, team that need to work with FDA getting approval. So it's not a very, very short, although we're continuously developed here, we're not allowed, to move a product to production up to the point that we have an FDA approval. But by the end of the day, like every startup is going to be top line, is going to be revenue. We're not going to judge in the next couple of years in profit. I mean, profit is not critical at this point of time. We need to show growth, and you need to show more and more institutions move to work with our systems.
What would be your target for the end of 2020 in your KPI?
So we are basically right now install our system in 5 hospitals in the US and 2 here. We need to come to the point that we're going to be 8 altogether. So we're right now in negotiation in 2 large, very healthcare system. One of them, it's a huge network. The other one is small networks. And we're progressing over there. It's running very slowly because everything is running from here using Zoom, which you have some limit of what you can do, but this is the target. The target next year is basically to double the numbers. And given the fact that it's unlike, the typical or the traditional kind of installation or similar solution like that, where cloud-based solutions, so integration is not amount of years, it's amount of couple of weeks to bring a new system to production.
What are the KPIs that on a daily basis you're watching, if you are? Are there any specific ones that, we talked about growth, fine number of hospitals, but that doesn't change on a daily basis. What do you monitor on a daily basis?
I'm not. And I'm trying to not work under, the assumption that I'm the founder and I should go and measure every single items. We have built a team, we have a great team here, and everyone knows their mission, and the fact that I'm the founder and CEO doesn't really affect any of the guys here. And we have a very detailed plan. We have an execution plan that we're measuring. The management is every second week is going and review, what we have accomplished, what we didn't. We have, the traditional kind of thing, action items, honors, due dates, and we're under heavy regulation restrictions. And we have an ISO here, and we have HIPAA, and we're working right now on the CE, so we have GDPR. And obviously we have an FDA and we have CE, which is huge amount of work that we need to do. A lot of trainings, a lot of procedures, it's a lot of overhead, but they have good and bad. Obviously it's slower down a little bit of what we have done in the past. But it's creating, the right order. You can't do whatever you want. I mean, by the end of the day, you need to understand that you're dealing with life of patients, and this is the most important thing right now: deliver better care. It's not the most aggressive market that we know. So part of that it's regulation. Part of that it's healthcare. It's a very conservative market. It's not about hype. It's not like, okay, I have another cyber company, let's build it up. I mean, not. I mean, they're skeptical, they're not believing, they want to see, they want to test, they want to put their hand, and nothing is happening right now from today to tomorrow, nothing. Unfortunately, but it's not.
What worries you the most? What keeps you up at night in terms of business related in Clew?
Revenues, investments, those are the type of things that keep me, awake at night. Because by the end of the day, we need to create growth. In order to create growth, we need people on the ground. We need more headcount here because we have a lot of opportunities. And this is why, as every founder, major part of your time is basically invested in, fundraising. And, it's not just showing, the evidence is basically to tell the stories. And so this is one side. But, it's going together with the fact that, I don't know investors which will keep investing in companies many years without showing any kind of proof in the financing side. So we need to have more customers, more revenues, more profit margins coming to that.
This is not your first rodeo. You had a few other rodeos before that. What is different, though, this time with Clew compared to the previous companies?
I think, I was born in this part of my life in the technology, selling, technology. And, I remember that, I raised a lot of money in the Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area, which is more of technology savvy kind of market. Here you're not talking with Silicon Valley guys, we're talking with the Boston guys, which are totally different. Those are not the guys which are wearing shorts and sandals and jeans. Those are the ones with the suit, with the tie. And it's very traditional business. It's longer, it's taking a lot of time. And the difference here, they don't really care about technology. Buzzword around, guys, we have a deep learning model or we have machine learning that can predict. This is basically a very nice buzzword. But show me how this model will help me as a medical doctor to do my job better. Don't wave your hands with, performance and models and AUCs and PPV. I mean, those are very, very nice names. But I don't care about, numbers. I care about how can I deal with the patient much better. Or, the business side of the equation, because by the end of the day, the ones which are signed the check is the CFO. The CFO is going to go and it's coming and ask us every time, show me the money. I mean, deliver better care is important. But with the same wording is, guys, I'm looking for a technology that either will help me to save cost or will generate more revenue for me. Because as we said, I mean, institutions in the US are P&L organization. They are not, it's not Europe, it's not Israel, which you have the Ministry of Health is covering everything. This is a business for them. So it's taking longer, and the idea is really using a different language, and the language is efficiency from one hand, deliver better care in the other hand.
You do not come from the medical industry, your background.
Correct.
And you started a company in the medical industry. What were the challenges for you as a founder being from an industry which you essentially don't know anything about?
So I think the challenges was basically in different kind of areas. The first area was really to try to understand how those guys are talking about. When they're coming and said, guys, let's modeling sepsis, which is the number one killer in ICUs today, or acute kidney injury, or respiratory failures. What does it mean? And we have done pretty much from day first, and we still have it, what we're calling a Clew University, which every second or third week you have a training which is one of the medical doctors coming and working tech and target basically one organ, one area that is coming and share with the technologist here. What does it mean? What does it mean to have acute kidney injury? What is going on inside? And it's kind of fascinating, kind of really to try to understand in a very high level, by the way. We don't have the time for running, the employees here to a medical school. It's usually a 2-hour session. It's kind of amazing to see how complex our human body is and how smart it is. And so for me, it was always we're not selling boxes, we're not selling, movies, we're selling, stuff that need to save lives. And for me, it was always like every other employee, and this is my expectation, is to understand, what is the subject matter here? And this is why when we started this company, I said that every single employee that were starting to work here need to do at least 2 shifts in the ICU, at least, you know, one during the night, one during the day, in order to understand. I done it, you know, when we started the company. I spent nights, overnights and days in the ICU, just, you know, chasing after the doctor, and I really try to understand, I mean, what they're doing, how they're thinking. And it was kind of fascinating to see that when you're coming to the ICU and you have a lot of beeps and you have what is calling the alarm fatigue area, how they're not mixed, what they're looking for. When you have a major event or urgent event, what they're looking for. They're looking at the monitor first, the patient second, the EMR. It was you know, really to try to understand the way that they're looking in the problem and how they're basically divided the issue into, you know, subset, and what they're testing first, what is after, and what is the checklist. And they don't have a checklist. They have what is calling intuition. So part of what we're doing here is taking those intuition and model that. So you'll have a mathematical model that will be the representation of this intuition, which is very important.
So essentially what you're saying, there's just no way around getting your hands dirty, learning the area, the industry.
At least it didn't work for me. Many others, you know, started the companies, they're doing, you know, hocus pocus kind of things, and, you know, a couple of years after the company is acquired or IPO. In my case, it's a lot of hard work. And you can't do anything if you're not really understand what you're dealing with. And it's a lot of frustration because our discussions internally here is in a different kind of language. Those medical doctors are talking in a totally different language. They don't understand, I mean, what we're saying. And it was like the mix between the clinical side and the technology side is the one which are making this company very, very successful and very unique.
What's the toughest thing for you about being a founder?
When you're going to take a position, senior position, CEO, but you didn't create this company, you're coming to a current situation and you need to make a growth or you need to fix the company. When you're building a company from scratch, it's everything about fail and success is under your shoulder, is the fact that you're not, and it happened to me in my previous round, that the cash was almost over, and you have like 40 families that you're filling here, and you have obligations, and you have a commitment. And it's like not sleeping good at night because, guys, in 6 months I'm out of cash. What am I gonna do? And it's about to be, you know, the mother and the father together. And it's not easy because, I mean, the problems occurred here from the market, from the employees, from competition, from your investor, from your board. Is like dealing with so massive kind of activities that you have around that. It's heavy.
How important is it to have a co-founder for a startup?
Very important.
And how did you find your co-founder?
So my co-founder used to be my VP R&D in my previous company, and we're very close friends. And it's not like, you know, we're under agreements and anything. And for matter of fact, most of the time we're not agreed. But this is for me, it's the balancing part because Avi is more relaxed guy, know how to frame the problem much more accurate. Plus the fact that we're friends. I mean, we're truly friends, and it's not easy to work with friends because, you know, by the end of the day, you need to make a decision. And you know how Israel is working. 90% no one is agree with you. And you know, when I was working with the teams in the US, it was you can say the most dumb thing that you ever dream, and no one will come and tell you what's going on with you. I mean, everyone kind of said, yes, I mean, it might be that you have something in your hand. Here in Israel, with the Israeli culture, most of them, 90-something%, they will come and say to you, it's a mistake. Everyone have their own opinions, especially when you're talking to your founder. I mean, he's part of this company, is making even tougher. But I think we have built a relationship over many, many years, and we know how to frame it in a way that, okay, I took a decision as CEO, you're not agree with that, but you need to work with it. And I think we have overcome many kind of accidents. We know each other very, very well, and to be alone, and I'm always saying, I'm giving a lot of lectures in universities and those kind of things. I'm always coming and say to them, to be a CEO of a company, it's not an easy task. I mean, it's very, very complicated job. It's a very complicated mission. But by the end of the day, you need to remember that most of the time you're alone. Most of the time you're not sharing your responsibility, because my management team have me. I don't have any boss. I have the board. The board is coming with different kind of roles. So if everything's successful, everyone is happy. But not everything is successful. Most of the time, I mean, we're failing, we're up and running, we're failing again. When we're failing, I mean, there is no one else to be blamed beside you. So it's like, it's a very tricky position. It's not easy, but you need to love what you're doing, and you need to take it in the right, the right perspective, that not everything is going to be perfect.
And what's the best thing about being a founder, though?
I think the best thing is that you're creating something that was not done before us. We're creating with our hands, a future. And yesterday, we have my previous management in my previous company, Kpis, I have the management team is every birthday that we have with one of the managing directors over there. We're going to some restaurant in Tel Aviv, and yesterday we have one of those birthday, and it was coming and said, guys, we have created Kpis in 2001, before the smartphone was here. And the vision that we have created over there, it's what is happening right now. And it's kind of amazing to see, PowerPoint slide from 2002, 3, 4, and how the market is acting right now. Bear in mind that when we started to work, it was like the basic Nokias and the Ericsson. No touchscreen, nothing like that. But the vision over there is exactly what we have today. And this is our intention here, because I believe that in 5 years, 10 years from now, the healthcare system is going to look completely different. It's going to be based on evidence, it's going to be based on data, it's going to be based on models which will help you to take the right decision. It's going to be computerized, it's going to use, technology to deal with complex patients much better.
What's your golden tip or tips for founders, for the audience of the show, founders just starting out, first-time founders, people who are just going to take the leap and become founders? What would be your golden 1 or 2 tips?
The first one is you need to have a lot of patience. You need to have a lot of support from your home, because it's tough. You need to spend significant amount of time building the company. Do not be in love with technology. I mean, this is the mistake. Do not spread. Focus. Let's create something small but working very well, and then you can expand, rather than have, we can do that and that and this one and that, because this is basically killer. The second tip is build the best team that you can. Don't discount, taking the guys which are coming by nature and say to you no. Don't take, guys which is easy to deal with, because this is not the way of building great teams. You need to build a team that is coming and challenge you every single day. And you need to fight them, and you need to make them believe that you're working with the right direction. And the third one is you need to have a lot of patience. It's taking time, and you need to have, strong heart. This is roller coaster. I mean, this is going up and down, and it's never easy. At least in my case, was never easy.
Say Clew Medical is acquired for, I don't know, $1 billion in 2-3 years. Do you have another startup in you, or are you done and you're going back home and resting?
I think this is the time for me after this one is helping to others to start their dreams, and basically I'm doing that as we speak. I'm dealing with many companies, and this is the stuff that was missing me when I started my first company. Someone that I can, sit with him, someone that can show me the way, someone that I can do some brainstorming. You can't go to your team, you can't go to the company and say, guys, I don't know where to go, right and bad, because then you're going to lose the company in a couple of minutes. But you need to have someone that you can trust, and someone that, okay, let's take a judgment, let's take a decision. In my case, when I started my first company, my chairman, which is Aaron, the one which is running the Innovation Authority, who was my chairman, he was my friend. And we have done tons of calls and meetings, nights, weekends, and he helped me. But I think I can do this kind of things for small startup, and I think this can be beneficial because we have so much experience here, and if we're not sharing this experience, we lost as a company, and I think this is the time to contribute a lot.
Well, Gal, you're an inspiring person, and you've built an amazing product which is saving lives. I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and wish you lots of luck and good luck with Clew Medical.
Thank you.
Thank you.